Hello, my name is Maria Charas. I've been working for Gallery System, which is one of the leading collection management systems, for 8 years now, and I actually thought I'd take the opportunity to share some of my experiences that I have kind of from the vendor side, so that if you are looking for a system, you actually don't make quite a few of the very common mistakes and try to find the right system that actually works for you. I hope you're all here actually because you're looking for a new system. You're not. But let's have a show of hands. Who is actually looking for a new system? Oh, there are quite a few among you. Who's actually here because they found a nice seat and they didn't want to leave? Okay. And I assume all the rest of you just wandered in because you found my slides so riveting. So for those of you who just wandered in and don't know what a collection management system actually does or can do, I wanted to start at the beginning. What does a collection management system do? And also, do I really need one? Oh, here we are. So basically what collection management systems do is they help you in your museum housekeeping. So all of you more or less know the center of every good museum is a good museum collection of objects. And those objects come with a lot of information. They have dates, they have photos, conservation information, remarks about their educational value, locations, and so on. And a collection management system helps you to organize that, to help you find the information again and also share it with others. And the more advanced system go far beyond that. They allow you to reference things to books and archive materials, organize loans and shipments, manage your exhibitions, plan your guided tours, link books and catalog, and whatever else you can more or less think of as a daily task in a museum. And there are actually a lot of systems out there. You will be surprised when you have a closer look. And the range of functionality goes from advanced Excel list to the really heavy-duty systems like CMS, which kind of support you in more or less everything. Now, to answer the question, do I need one? This is actually up to you. Some of you might be happy by hearing Excel is fine for you. But for those of you who actually might be interested in something more advanced, I'm going to tell you how to get started. So the first step is actually to go window shopping. Here we are. I often compare the selection of a collection management system to kind of buying your own first house. And for many of us, the first house is also going to be the last, and it's the same with collection management systems. It is vastly complicated. You learn a lot about yourself or your needs, and very often you only do it once in your life. So I will stay with the house analogies to make it easier for you. When you are considering buying, building, whatever, a house, acquiring it some way, you often have a Pinterest phase. So basically, you have a look at all the nice houses, you build your mood board, you decide color schemes and pin all the nice features. Unfortunately, there's no Pinterest yet for collection management systems, so you actually have to reach out to the vendors. You have to go talk to people and find out. And this is also the right place to start. Really, as an orientation, talk to people. The collections trust list of the Spectrum approved software is a really good place to start. And then set up phone calls or short meetings, tell people about your collection and try to find out if the system could potentially fit. Also, be rather upfront about your very rough budget, because it does make a difference for us if you have £1,000, £10,000 or £100,000 at your disposal to buy a new system. And just coming back to the housing system, you can have a look at a wonderful Minotti Cucina kitchen for £400,000, but I'm quite sure you will not be able to afford that on a registrar's salary, unfortunately. And kind of when you talk to all these different vendors, make a list of those who would be potential fit. Kind of try to narrow it down to 6 or 8 or something like that, because those are the ones who you want to more or less continue working with. Now you actually have to, looking around is kind of the fun part, but now you actually need to go down and need to find out, get a bit introspective, try to find out what you really need. Because the Pinterest mood board is absolutely amazing, but you might not have the budget for a villa, and there are a few other things where you just should not forget that you need it. And just really my recommendation, don't wish for the stars, but make a really honest list. So if you're building a house, I'm quite sure you want to have a bathroom, a kitchen, and I don't know, 1, 2, whatever bedrooms, and central heating, and the roof over your head might be nice as well. Then are those nice to have features, like garden or balcony, storage space, garage, whatever. And then there is the winning the jackpot option. So not everyone might want, need, or to be honest, be able to afford the pool and the helipad, even though you might really want to have that. And translated to collection management software, I'm a salesperson. I will present you all the really nice and very shiny features, and I'm quite sure so will do all the other vendors. But I also have to be honest there, the vast majority of really nice shiny features might not be what you really need, especially not kind of when you're working every day. Then it's far more important that you can manage your workflows, that you have the flexibility to adapt things, and that you can really, find things quickly. So don't try not to be too distracted by the shininess of everything. So if you do not have if you have 2 loans a year, you will probably not lead a loans module. But if you have a 300 people institution, you will not only need a loans module, you will also definitely really, really need very detailed security settings to determine who is allowed to see what, read, change what, delete what, and so on. So the requirements for different systems can be quite different. Now, you're just sitting in your room, talking to all those vendors, building up your really nice little lists, and I'm sorry to say so, there's one important thing you might have missed, which is that you also have to talk to your users, because they will be the ones who actually work with the system, and they might have very, very different requirements than you anticipated. And sometimes talking to the users can be really, really tedious, because they might not know how to phrase things, or they might really wish for blue unicorns. I've had those cases. The different requirements might be contradictory. Or also, they always come from the existing system. So they will just say, I want to do it like we always did, but a bit better. And this will not always help you to find something new. So what you really need to look into, what is the goal I want to achieve with this functionality or this step? And quite often you will realize it's not that important to have a save button if the system just saves automatically. And be a bit flexible on that as well, because sometimes things are just solved differently in different systems, which doesn't mean that the one system is better or worse. It's just different. And if you're very stuck on where you come from, it can be very difficult for you to actually find something, or you're narrowing yourself down unnecessarily. And that's not something that you want when you're looking for something new. So talk to your users. try to involve more or less everyone that can be important. And yes, also the education staff can be important because they might want to use it, or the marketing people. So kind of be really broad. And if you want to have an overview of which people and which roles you could include, we'll have a link to a brochure later where you can download it, and has nice pictures to make it easier for you. Now, you compiled your initial lists of what you need, you checked with your users, you think you're kind of set. Now be sure to kind of dig deeper. Coming back to our houses, there can be amazing floor plans, but those lie. So you can only get a feeling for something if you actually walk the halls and test them out. And don't trust the salespeople. I am a salesperson, I know. Be sure to ask people for explanations if you're not sure that you understand it. Go into the details. Test out workflows. And also be very inquisitive about costs. Because I know it's very different sometimes, what's included, what's not included, and you don't want to wake up after the implementation and then the vendor says, yes, you can do this and this, but it will cost you the same amount of money again. So don't be shy there and go into the details and ask. There are quite a few areas which you should consider and also make clear for yourself where you want to go in. So be very clear on the number of users. Check with the vendor, do they offer named users? So kind of everyone needs a license. Do they offer concurrent users, which kind of counts how many people logged in at the same time? So what is the pricing module there? Also, what happens if you want to have fewer or more users? Sometimes the initial license, when you buy them as a bundle, are quite cheap, but every additional license that you add is, 5,000 quid. So ask upfront just to make sure that you know what to expect, because you never know what to expect when you're working with a system, how your institution is going to change, and so on. Another important thing is the trainings. Usually you do need trainings at the beginning. And so ask the vendor what they would recommend for your type of collection, for your number of users, what type of trainings they offer. So I usually offer train-the-trainer trainings, because I have to be honest, I am not too fond of repeating the same initial user training all over again. So large institutions, we train the trainers and they know their users better anyway. But that's one way of doing it. Other people do it quite differently. I also know there are quite a few systems where you have all the trainings online as recorded videos, which is great, but nonetheless, ask the vendor, do people usually book additional trainings? Because from the outside, you cannot see how good those videos are, and if the system is actually designed to be so easy that you are fine with only videos. So those are just things that you should consider. And also, again, what are follow-up costs? So do many people, many institutions book a lot of trainings the following year? And if yes, how much would those be? And should I consider those for myself as well and plan them into the budget? And follow costs for systems is generally a big point. They also I'll come to that later. So just going back, more important things is the location of your data. There are systems where you have your location on site, where everything is installed on site and your data is on site. There are systems where you have them in the cloud, via hosting or software as a service, different models. If you are on premise, make sure to understand what your tasks are to manage the system. Like, is it easy to do a backup? If you want to run an upgrade, how complicated is that? How many upgrades are there? Can you do that yourself, or do you have to ask the vendor every single time? And also, do you have to staff to do that? On the other hand, if you book hosting, what is included in that hosting service? How are price differences if you, I don't know, get 10 more users? Add a lot of additional media data. So try to find out, at least verbally, you don't have to get quotes for that because that's already annoying for me to generate them all the time, but just get an idea how is the pricing module and how will things change if you change in the future. And also, sometimes there are those bundles. And again, you know that from when you build kind of a ready-made house thing, if you use the standard tiles, which are really ugly, then it's quite cheap. But as soon as you change the smallest thing, just change the ugly orange to nice mint green, then it's another £5,000. And those are things that you should be aware of and that you should ask the vendor before you go into any decision on who you are going to buy, because you don't want to be surprised later on. When you implement a system, many of you, especially the Calm and Mimsy users, you are on a deadline because your existing systems will not be supported anymore after a certain point. And you might want to make sure that the vendor can actually support that deadline. So you have to ask them, tell them, this is a deadline, can you make that? And also, make sure that you know what the vendor needs from you to keep that deadline. Because I know I've been on projects where it took the client weeks, literally, to get back on questions like, should the logo be on the right side or on the left side? And if that takes 3 weeks, but it's a blocker, then a project can easily go from 5 months to 5 years. So not only talk to the vendor externally, like what they need from you, but also make clear internally that you do need the internal support to work on those things. And who's responsible for what and who needs to sign off on what information. Because otherwise it will be very difficult for you to work efficiently if you don't have the rights to sign off on certain things. Good, and the last thing, okay, I have to do that freestyle, so my notes can't move. Follow-up costs, I mentioned that already. Very often, you do not necessarily know how a new collection management system will change your workflows, and who will suddenly really like the system and like to get on. Because sometimes the marketing department will say, oh, you've got really nice image management. We want to get in there as well. So you need to have a specific or some type of flexibility. And again, all vendors are flexible, but it's always also a matter of cost. So I know some systems are limited to 1,000 objects only. And if you want more, you have to pay a certain amount. So make sure, are there any limits of that kind? Are there any limits as to how many additional fields you can bring in? Can you actually bring in additional drop-down, checkboxes, text fields, whatever? And if you can do so, are there prices for that? So there are systems where you can bring 20 additional fields and then there is a huge jump in pricing. Ask them, or sometimes you can't do it yourself, but you have to ask the vendor for every small change you have. And then ask them for the support they give you on that. Is it extra cost? And also, how long will it take? Just wanted to say, because people just work on different systems, and the different pricing systems are extremely different and sometimes quite complicated. And you should just be aware of that and really know all the information up front. I think that's the most important part. If you know there will be extra pricing, then that's okay. And it might be a very good pricing module, but you should be aware of that up front and not having to take it out on your staff budget later on. So that is quite important. Now, I see some of you kind of looking at me with empty eyes, bit overwhelmed, asking, can somebody just please tell me what to pick? I'm very sorry, I can't do that. Obviously, TMS is the best system that's out there. I hope you all understand that. But I also have to admit it might not be the best system for you. And because you will have to decide what you need and what works best for you. And we cannot pick a system for you, but at least we can help you a bit in the process. So as I mentioned already, we do have a collection management system purchasing guide, which you can download here. I'm going to give you a minute to do that, if you want to. If not, it also gives you all the people that you should include in your team, like the IT manager and head of conservation and whatever else you might not have. If you just missed the guide, I'd be happy to meet you at our booth N9 to answer any question you might have. We also have coffee and chocolate. And we have the link again so that you can just go there and download it. And I wanted to give you some more very important resources. One of them is the well-known Collections Trust. They are going to have a virtual event in July, and you can sign up for them as well. I hope they come by and thank me for that later. You are here, thank you. I really like those events. The other one is the Canadian Heritage Information Network. And they have a very nice, very extensive Excel file. I think it's 800 questions that you kind of should or could consider when selecting a collection management system. The vast majority of those questions will not be relevant for you, but I find it really helpful to just have a look, because maybe you missed something completely really important because you haven't been in contact with that or you don't know what it means. So have a look at that. But also, and I think I'm speaking for every single vendor that's here or somewhere else, don't just copy that link and that list and send it to us, but really go through it, make sure you have limited to those things that are relevant for you and rephrase it in an order that it works for you. Because it's not about just finding any system, but it's really about finding the system that works for you and is best for you and your institution and your workflows. Okay, now I talked a lot. Does any one of you want to talk by asking any questions? Yes, please. I have to move over? Okay.
Hi, thank you so much for that. Sorry, my name's Morn Capper, I'm from the University of Chester. I'm wanting to know, what are the big green thoughts that you have for the future of collections management? And for your systems, in buying systems?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't fully...
Yeah, are there any things that we need to think about in terms of green changes to collections management, things that we'll want to record in the future that you can think of?
You mean... Oh, sorry. You mean green changes in the sense of environmental?
Absolutely.
That very much depends. Like when we are looking at collection management systems, it's very much like our footprint is rather low. But I think what is rather our role is to support your workflows to get better when it comes to our environmental requirements. So it might be better supervision of conservation requirements, the temperatures you need, because if you just have 1 degree higher in your storage rooms, but have that as a constant temperature, that might also make a big difference. The most important issue where at least the large institutions have, heating in your general exhibition rooms is not something that's related to us, but generally exhibition management. There are two areas. The one is loans and shipments, especially when you have couriers sending people and objects all around the world. Here, at least we can kind of support you by helping you to plan that trajectory. Which can also mean that it might be that when you have more steps in your shipment process, that it's more carbon friendly. Or the other thing is, especially in exhibitions, when you have exhibitions where you kind of build your own showcases for every single exhibition, temporary exhibition, we, for example, do have a crates module with which you can manage those and reuse them. Same for storage boxes and transportation boxes. So those are things, at least where we as a collection management system can support you, but I think the big steps wouldn't be on our side, but actually on the museum side, and we can only support.
So do you think then having a loans module is a really important development for the bigger organisations?
For a big organisation, yes. I cannot understand how you can go without a loans module. Just the efficiency of that, having the overview and everything else is just, yeah. Yes.
I'm on my way.
Thank you. Do you have a view on the extensive use of collections management systems for that other CMS, content management system? So many museums use the content of their CMS on their website. My experience is that dual use affects your ability to do both things, not always positively.
Yeah.
But my experience of looking at systems now is that some of them are promoting themselves as able to do that. Do you have view on whether that is a good thing or whether it's a practice we should try and break ourselves of?
I think it very much depends on the size of the collection and your needs. So we don't integrate with content management systems because we kind of have our own website publishing system. So basically you set up a template once, and then in TMS you just check the checkbox and it will automatically be published on your site, which is very comfortable. But it will be kind of a subside of your website. So it's not directly integrated, but it can look the same and everything. Users will not realize, but it is a completely separate system and it's not integrated in your content management system. But it's also kind of an additional big system you have there, and especially the smaller institutions where you only, want to publish 20 images. From time to time, I think it's just not worth the investment for an additional system. So, yeah, it depends. Yeah, no.
Any more questions from anybody else in the audience?
Okay, if not, as I said, come by N9. We have chocolate and coffee and a guide to download. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.